Drop
tell
it,
y'all what's on my
drop
mind.
it, drop it, crush. Dip it,
I'm
low,
thinking a couple of
crush.
things off my
To the
chest.
flow, crush. I bet you can't work. You got me. Uh. Drop it, drop it, drop it, crush. Dip it, low, crush. To the flow, crush. I bet you can't work. You got me. Uh. Nah, come on, BeatKing. R.I.P. BeatKing. Gotta start it off right. It's your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your nephew, your friend, but it can't be your son, it's your kinfolk, William Jewell. Giving you my detail as I'm articulating. This is articulating. Rap, rap, rap. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn the notifications on so you can get all the new posts, all the new content when I drop them. Because I'm giving you the clips. No Pusha T, no malice involved. Right? But damn. Sad day. BeatKing, only 39. Right? Not even 40 yet. And I know when you're young, when you're in your teens, when you're in your early 20s, that late 30s seem to be old. But as you get in the 30s and people before they reach their 40s have passed, bro, that's way too young. That's way too soon. And I saw a clip where he was talking about his health issues. I saw a clip where he was talking about his heart beating fast, where he was talking about being on the stage performing, and by the third song his heart beating, it was hard to catch his breath. I saw that he was a little bit overweight. I saw he was carrying some weight with him, right? Some overweight, some obesity. And that's an American problem, not just in the African American community. That's an American problem, right? A lot of people are obese. A lot of people are overweight. And we got to pay attention to these type of things. You got to get your physicals. Men, you got to get your checkups. Prostate. Women, you got to get your checkups. You got to get your mammograms. You got to get your checkups, man. You got to take care of yourself. You got to put your health at the forefront, because I'm sure BeatKing had plenty of money to spend celebrating in the club. I'm sure he had plenty of dollars and cents to throw at the strip club, to buy real estate, to party, to have fun, to spend more time with his kids, to take them on trips, to take his lady out fine dining, to buy his family some fancy things. I'm sure he had much more bread. But that's when they say health is wealth. Because if you don't have your health, you can't spend your money. You can't do what you want to do. You can't perform how you want to perform. You can't act and go through the motions, go through the movements like you want to go through. And let this be a lesson, right? And it's no disrespect to him, right? It's just one of those things that sometimes isn't cognizant. It's one of those things that sometimes we don't think about when we're in a moment. We don't think about when we look at ourselves in the mirror. We don't think about when we're eating certain food. We don't think about when we're partaking in certain drinks, when we're partaking in certain drugs. We don't think about it when dipping low crush, when you giving her that hammer, when you throwing that ass. Like, you don't think about it when you in the club partying and celebrating. Because we know when we think about the clubs, when we think about the parties, we associate that with BeatKing. And just let that be a moment of awareness for us all. Not just in the black community, but in the American community. Like, we got to take care of our health. And everybody knows me. Everybody knows I'm in the health industry. So, when these things happen, it does make me sad. And at the end of the day, when God call you home, God gonna call you home. No matter how good of shape you're in. But it makes sense to be proactive. It makes sense to make sure you're doing that preventative maintenance. It makes sense to take care of your body, right? Eat the right things, drink the right things. It makes sense to exercise. It makes sense to be active. It makes sense because our families need us, especially as men. Because you got to think about who all was in his circle. You got to think about who all was in his family tree. Who all was he taking care of when he was here? And now some of that money stops. Now some of that cash flow stops coming, and some of these people aren't going to be taken care of. We got to think about the economics, right? And it's just a sad thing. So I know I started out on that dark path. I know I started out on something somber, but let's give BeatKing his flowers. Right? Let's give him his flowers because when I was in college in the 2010s, when I was in college and we was in the black parties, right? We called them the black parties, but they was more so the Greeks. They was throwing the parties, the sororities, the fraternities, the sigmas, the alphas, the kappas, the omegas, the AKAs, ski, the deltas, right? They was throwing the parties, and we was in the PWI. So whenever we would be able to get a party at the fairgrounds or at the LSC, right? The Lowman Student Center, that's Sam Houston State, like close to Houston. So DJ Chose, BeatKing, DJ Mr. Rogers, like all these DJs that was in the South, all these DJs that reigned and held from Houston, Texas, they was big in that era because they was the one that was getting us to party. That was the one that was getting us to jig, getting us to dance. Like we was still dancing at these times. We was still, walking behind the girl. She looking back behind to see if you're ugly, to see if you're cute, just to see who you are, right? And that would determine if she wanted to dance with you. That would determine, you know what I'm saying? And you got to think about the songs that was playing, that hammer. Like, you got to think about these songs, man. And it's just so nostalgic. It's so reminiscent. We get into that mood. We get into that vibe. We get into that feelings. And, BeatKing was very instrumental in that area. And he said he was one of the pioneers with really bringing that club music to Houston, right? Because that's the dance era, Young Nation, right? They say it's the BeatKing weekend, right? All these artists, he was not just a songwriter, but he was a producer. So, like I say, DJ Chose, DJ Mr. Rogers, BeatKing, they was very instrumental in pioneering that lane for Texas artists because we had Zero, we had Slim Thug, we had Mike Jones, we had Paul Wall, we had Chameleon there. But they wasn't giving us that real club music. Lil Kiki swinging down. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm talking about? That June 27 freestyle. Know what I'm talking about? Big Pokey, Big Mo. You know, I was at the club one night. But when we talk about that club music that had the girl shaking that booty, when we talk about the club music that had you moving your hips, throwing that ass in a circle, when we talk about that club music that made you want to lay that hammer down on a little some, right? She was a little sweaty, but you bring her back to the crib, let her freshen up a little bit and get into something wet and slippery. Right, we gotta thank BeatKing for that because he was the one that got them in the mood. He was the one that got them shaking their booties, right? So, salute to him because he put us on a lot of women and he got a lot of women in the mood to want to enjoy us as men. And shit, boy, that boy was into some freaky things, boy. That boy had them girls doing some freaky things when he was in that club. Right? You know about BeatKing. He was down there turning that club into a porno site, boy. Shit, And I ain't no freaky nigga. I ain't no 69 God. I'm not a fan. Right? But shit, salute to BeatKing because, you do what you do. If you're into that type of thing, do what you do. But he wasn't putting enough strokes. He wasn't pumping enough to get him in the shape that he needed to be healthy. So, I mean, even though he was into that, at the end of the day, in the long run, that didn't pay off. And I know y'all like, damn, nigga, just shut the fuck up and just say something positive and move on. But fuck it. Give a fuck. Give a damn. I'ma speak what I gotta speak to give y'all that real deal Holyfield, to give y'all that truth. And if you don't like it, right, it is what it is. And salute to Houston. Salute to BeatKing, all the people that he influenced, all the people that he worked with, all the songs he produced, all the songs he wrote, and everything he did in the community, everything he did in the industry, and everything he did, for those college years that I was really impacted by his music, man. Salute to BeatKing, R.I.P. Rest in power, brother, and may your memory and your legend live on, right? So now, I hate to start it off like that, but shit, we gotta talk. You know what I'm saying? And for some reason, there's been a big conversation about record sales, right? Because the record sales, when we talk about JT, she was in those 20s. Uh, for that first week, when we talk about Ice Spice, she was in those 20s for the first week, and now we're talking about Lotto, right? And although I said she had a good album, although I said she improved her song making, although I said that she had growth, but those album sales didn't grow. Those album sales didn't rise. Those album sales did not reflect, what some of us as consumers of music thought about that album. We thought it would be a lot more listened to, a lot more play, because I believe those songs had replay value. I believe those songs could turn any woman up in the club. I believe those songs were good songs, and I believe she showcased her skill, her lyrical prowess, and just her ability to make songs at a higher level than some of her peers and counterparts. But when we look at the results, when we look at the data and the stats, it didn't add up. So we question what's going on in the music industry. Are these women doing something wrong? Are these type of artists just not breaking through? And then we got to question hip hop as a whole. What's going on with hip hop? Why is the streaming numbers going down? Because as I'm looking on the charts, I'm seeing Taylor Swift, I'm seeing Morgan Wallen, I'm seeing all these other artists that are dropped albums months ago that are still streaming higher numbers per week, more than an Ice Spice, a JT, a Lotto, and of course Polo G as well. I think he had a good album for his lane of music, for his niche, for his subgenre in hip hop. I didn't think it was great, but I think it was good enough to, deserve a little bit more streams than 24K within the first week. So, I looked at it. I think Lotto was like number 14th, and Polo G ended up being 23. So when we think about these record sales, like, why are they so low, right? And why aren't they raising? Why aren't they matching what these artists was matching? I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to the academics and what he was saying about artists like A Boogie, Lil TJ, and Roddy Rich, like artists you would put Polo G kind of like in the same category with. And these artists was doing 100K. These artists was doing a lot more numbers 2 to 3 years ago, but now there's starting to be a drop off and a decline in sales. And Polo G took 3 years between this album and the last album. And Lotto, she did well with her previous album, but I mean, I don't think nobody was really just checking for her music like that. So I think that could, what I'm saying, be a reason why. Because we don't know her as more of a record or an album person. We know her as dropping singles. So I don't know if that's the reasoning for her lower record sales, but when we think about Doja Cat, when we think about Nicki Minaj, when we think about Cardi B, and even Megan, shit, they was saying Megan was having bots. And I think Megan was projected to sell 60K. But then when we look at Ice Spice, JT, and what Lotto's doing, she's still reigning supreme over those girls. So goddamn, what is it? I don't know. But I do know one thing. I do know one thing. And I just believe that these artists that are in these niches of hip hop, these artists that are in this certain lane and not really giving us substance outside of the pussy rap, not really giving us substance outside of the drill, not really giving us substance outside of the typical melodic rap when you crying about some shit, like some pain shit, like I it I think you need to provide a little bit more to touch on more people, to resonate, to relate to more people, because once you come through and officially break through as an artist originally, right? Because everybody knows that first album, that first single, like one of those first, years that you have as a new artist, that's probably going to be one of your biggest years. And so sometimes you either got to grow from that, evolve from that, or stay consistent with that, or you got to keep pushing forward. And sometimes when you get complacent, sometimes when you kind of stay in that lane, then things don't happen. And I don't think that Lotto is somebody that's been complacent or content with her status, but I don't think like her music has evolved. Has she grown like from a song making ability stance? I believe she's grown, but I don't believe that growth is going to be, and it's shown that it hasn't been enough to really put her at that superstar status. So uh the record label and everybody that's working with her, they need to go back to the drawing board, because she has a look, she has the ability, and why she not selling like she should, I don't know. And they saying like, damn, does record sales even matter anymore? Can you get the hard ticket sales? That's the other argument of the question. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a 360 deal, they're gonna make money off you with your album sales. They're gonna make money off you with your tour. They're gonna make money off you with your merch. They're gonna make money off everything that you do. So even if you're not in a 360 deal, if you're in a deal where they're making money just off of your streaming, right? The most times these artists, they make their real money on tour. They make their real money doing shows. So as long as they doing shows, as long as people showing up, as long as they're able to sell out these crowds, these arenas, all right, and then they're successful. And I think at the end of the day, like I said, Lotto gave us a good album. Now why she didn't sell, that's beyond me. But I feel like I kind of answered that question, because when we see these artists that are staying in that same substance is not really like going beyond their realm of pussy rap or their realm of trap rap, melodic, or just that niche of drill, I think it's starting to get played out. And I think that's what happened with Polo G. That's going to happen with Lil TJ. That's going to happen with Ace Boogie. I feel like Roddy Ricch, to me, and this may be biased because I love Roddy Ricch, because Roddy Ricch was one of the first melodic rappers besides, Quavo on auto tune. He was one of the first melodic rappers that really just got me into that niche, into that lane, and he did it so well, from hitting the high notes to the low notes better than anybody ever did, even better than Drake. I feel like Roddy Ricch was the example of what Young Thug would sound like, if he was a little bit more polished. So, uh, and we gotta see, like Academic said, we gotta see what Roddy Ricch does. We gotta see what Lil Durk does. We gotta see what Lil Baby does. I put him in that conversation. I mean, shit, the Baby, I think we already know the finality of what he's going through. We kind of already know the end of what happened with him, because he hasn't sold well, since all the stuff happened. So like Lil Durk, Lil Baby, of course those are the guys I would want to see, like those guys in their niche. Like, can they still provide sales? Can they still prevail in this industry and in this culture while it's still shifting? And I believe that's what we got to pay attention to. What's shifting, how the culture is evolving. Are we getting tired? Are we growing older, that pussy rap? And are they just putting it in our face and we think that it's relevant? You know what I'm saying? Or that we getting tired of this drill rap? Or we getting tired of this trap melodic sound? And are they just putting it in our face as mainstream hip hop music, but it's not really resonating with people outside that genre? So I think those are interesting questions. Roddy Rich, Lil Durk, Lil Baby. I want to see what they gonna do. And that just kind of piqued my interest, like where the hip hop is going, where the music industry is going, uh, and where is Big Sean going? Because I think we can kind of lump him in with some of these other artists. And like when I'm talking about a different niche, a different lane, he's the one that is a little bit more widespread. He's the one that has a little bit more variety in what he's going to give us in his bars and in his music. But he gave us the Precision record. He gave us the record when he was talking about his son. He gave us this record with the Alchemist, Together Forever, and I believe Together Forever was the best record of the three, right? Because the production was there. You got Alchemist. You got one of the greatest producers in this era right now. Hit Boy, Alchemist, and Metro. Metro's at the top. I think Alchemist is right underneath him, and then Hit Boy. So I believe him working with Alchemist really, provided a spark, really just gave him the motivation, or just gave him that ignition, that ignited fluid that he need to give us some fire, to release something that was hot, to really just kind of get in his bag and get back to what he does best, to really get in his toolbox and use his wrenches and use his screws and use the nuts and bolts of what he does well. I believe Big Sean has the ability. He's shown he has the ability to make hits, but these singles that he's dropping, I feel like they not catching. I feel like they not sticking. I feel like nothing has stuck. And I just believe it's because of what Kendrick and Drake did, in May, right? I believe it's because of the battle. And so like we were so invested in that battle, and now just to hear Big Sean, I don't think like that's what the listeners want. I think the listeners do want more Kendrick. I believe like the listeners do want more Drake. And so when it comes to Big Sean, I believe he's the odd man out. And since he's the odd man out, I think he's trying to drop these singles to catch fire, to catch something. And I don't believe it's catching. Together Forever, I mean, it's a good rapping, it's a good lyrical song, but I don't believe it's a song like I Don't Fuck With You. I don't believe it's a song, Blessed. I don't believe it's one of those type of songs. So I think he needs one of those type of songs to kind of build his esteem back up, to build his momentum back up. And he's dropping these singles. He did the freestyle using the Drake flow. I mean, he's done some things, but just it's just not really catching. It's not really sticking. And I don't know why, and I don't know what is going to come of it. I don't know, will the record sales reflect? And I think that's why he backed out. I think that August 9th release date was a little bit too soon. I think that's why he decided not to drop, because if he did and that album didn't do the numbers that it was supposed to do, I think that was going to be a bad look. And I think he wanted to avoid that bad look because he haven't built up enough steam. He haven't really built up enough buzz. And now he's done an interview with Charlemagne. Right now he's dropping these singles. Now you're seeing him a little bit more. He's a little bit more visible. So maybe that might help him. But at the end of the day, right, I don't think nothing's helping him. I believe he just gotta keep putting out the music and just let the music speak for him. And then eventually he can catch one, but he can't be scared to drop because he doesn't got that momentum behind him. I believe the album will give him the momentum that he needs. And if it's a classic and if it's legitimate like it should be coming from an artist like Sean, I don't think he has nothing to worry about, no matter if it does well that week one. But if people really revere it in a certain way, it will climb up those charts like it need to, right? And Drake, the Buffalo Freestyle, another release from the Plot Twist account. I didn't even look on the streaming services yet to see if they put that on the streaming services, but Drake is giving us these loosies again. And now when I think about Drake, right, I'm I heard something as far as you have to release 4 tracks for it to be considered an album by Billboard. So when he did that 3-pack, it was strategic because if he did a 4-pack and it didn't chart and do what it was supposed to do, it was gonna look bad from a record sale standpoint. So the reason why he dropped the 3-pack is was to avoid that label of an album. And I talked about it up. I talked about blue, green, and red. I talked about Housekeeping Knows, which seems to be the unforgettable song in that bunch. And I liked it up. I liked blue, green, and red because of the island vibes, and it was a pure Drake song. But this Buffalo freestyle is kind of what I was asking of Drake. It's kind of what I was saying, that Drake needs to be a little bit more serious. And from what Benny the Butcher has said in previous interviews, he had song with Drake. He had some heat with Drake, but Drake would never clear it. So it's kind of funny that Drake clears this song like in the midst of the smoke clearing, right? He's using Benny as a pawn in his game, and I don't think Benny minds because he don't mind, being on that train. He doesn't mind riding those coattails of Drake. But as we look and as we've examined with the Camila Cabella album, as we examined with the Sexy Red album, as we examined with the Gordo album, that Drake stimulus package is not what it was supposed to be. Right? It's not what it used to be. It's not bubbling. It's not sticking. It's not creating what it once created. It's not creating stars. It's not propelling artists into stardom. It's not doing what it used to do. Someone go check on the machine, see if it's malfunctioning. Someone go look at the buttons, look at the wires, see if you could change them and switch them up. Maybe that would work, but we see that something's broken. And I feel like this Buffalo freestyle is what we wanted from Drake. He should have released this as a first song coming off the battle, but he released this as the most recent song. And I think Drake is now understanding what the fan base, what the fans want from him. Something a little bit more serious, right? Something a little bit more lyrical. And I don't think Drake was super lyrical, but Drake was Drake on this song. Drake was hip hop on this song. With Benny, I think that combination just gave it that dope boy feel. I think that combination just gave it that street, but yet conscious, but yet backpacker, but also vibey type of combination that worked well together. And I believe their chemistry was great. And, that Buffalo freestyle really stood out to me. That Buffalo freestyle was a lot more serious. That Buffalo freestyle was a lot more lyrical. That Buffalo freestyle was something that could give Drake a reason to hold his head up high. I believe that Buffalo freestyle was a reason for Drake to act buff, to act a little bit stronger, to act a little bit more swollen, like he got a pump, like he lifted some weights, like he had a good workout, like he put that time in during the exercise and he came out sweaty. I believe that Buffalo was something that it works, and it dropped, 12 hours ago. And I would say when I first heard it, it's probably been about 15, 16 hours since then. But it dropped yesterday. So let's see what it does. Let's see if it catch any buzz. Let's see if it get anybody radars up. But I believe that Buffalo freestyle was like buffalo wings. Something that was undeniable. With the buffalo sauce, right? Dripping red. Right, not too hot but flavorful. Something to give you a nice combustion. Something to give you a little bit of heat, but not burn your throat. Something to provide your ears with a listen with a little bit of heat, but not something that makes you want to turn the volume down. So Drake, I believe this was a good attempt, and I'm honestly being for real, because I believe we've been hard on Drake. And I also believe a lot of podcasters have been trying to dial back so they don't seem like they're anti-Drake, so where they don't seem like they're always talking down on Drake. I believe like these podcasters, these people in the media are trying to be a little bit nicer, but at the same time, when they're being too nice, they're losing a little bit credibility because I just don't believe it. I just don't see the genuineness in it. I don't see that sincerity or that authenticity in what they're saying about Drake. It just seems so fake, right? And we got to keep it real. Cause Drake ain't been winning. Drake been doing some bullshit, but I believe he got it right with this one, and he's going in a forward direction. Like I said, that 3-pack kind of leveled him out, right? He was going in a downward slope. That 3-pack helped him come to a standstill, and now this Buffalo freestyle is kind of lifting him up slightly, right? So we'll see where he goes from here. And goddamn, like Noah Lyles, like people talking about Noah Lyles, right? I said I'm gonna keep it music, but I'm gonna go to the sports topic because I got a little bit of time, right? But damn, Noah Lyles, boy, running his mouth, boy was doing all that jumping and running right before that 200 meters, and then he played pussy when he got beat. When he got third place, he laid on his back and got tucked in the bed. Somebody put a pacifier on him. Somebody gave him a bottle. Rocked his ass to sleep in that 200 meters. Not just the guy from Botswana, but another American was able to win silver. And all the shit that he talked about with the NBA not being world champions. And the thing is, I like that shit. Right? The only thing I didn't like what Noah Lyles did was try to blame COVID, make an excuse for COVID, because after how he was conducting himself before that race, and to lose in that type of fashion, then lay out like he was really messed up and he was really like affected by the COVID, to me, that didn't sit well. But all the shit talking, all the confidence, even though he got a little corniness to him from what everybody's saying, like even though he got a little corniness to him, like I can respect it, I can appreciate it. Because, I mean, talk your shit. You're a gold medalist, a 6-time medalist, right? And although he got bronze in the 200, he did get gold in the 100 meters with a photo finish. So how many people can say they got gold in the 100 meters? And if you win gold in the 100 meters, you're the fastest man on earth. So what are y'all talking about? Just because he got third place in the 200. No, talk your shit. And you're able to stand on business because of the results, because of the stats. Ant-Man, you ain't won no shit. You ain't been to no final. So why are you getting a shoe deal before me? Right? And we know, right, that the NBA is a bigger brand than the USA track and field. And I believe Carmelo raised a great point. Why aren't we giving these professional runners their own league to where we can see races week in and week out, right? And then giving them a playoffs, right? I believe that's a great theory. That's a great way to showcase track and field like it needs to be put, because all we letting them do is run the world championships, and you know what I'm saying? Then they got the Olympics every 4 years, so we're really not glued into that. Like, their season is different, right? You run. Then when you get to the conference championships, whoever gets a certain time, they go to the regionals. Whoever wins in the regionals, they go to the state or the nationals. And then from there, it's whoever wins, right? But I believe, like, we need to have an actual league, right? Televised league, when they're running on a weekly basis, not of college. And college, I'm sure people pay attention to them, but more so the pros, to really give them the shine and credit that they deserve, because that's athletics, right? And people like to see people race. People like to see people throw the shot put and discus. People like to see people do the pole vaults, the high jumps, the long jumps. People like to see some of those things. So I believe if we could see some of those things, more consistently and organized into a league, I think that would be dope. But the fact that Noah Lyles is talking this shit and the NBA players are tripping about it, getting mad about it, I don't think, it's nothing to really be worried about. He act like he didn't know who Tyreek Hill was, because Tyreek Hill is talking like this dude is not the fastest man on earth, right? Like, bro, you're football fast. Yeah, you fast on the track, but this is a world class athlete. This is a dude that went to the Olympics and won the 100-meter dash. You're not doing that. So stop playing with his name and he won't play with yours. And I think him talking out, him being more outspoken about his skill set and about the comparison with him and these other athletes, I believe in that's raising his profile more. I believe that's raising his star a little bit more, because people like to see someone, people like to hear from someone that standing on business, that doesn't care about what they say, that speaks with confidence, that speaks with genuineness, that speaks from their heart. And even though we know he lying, he said this cheetah guy, what's his name? Even though we know he lying because he know who Tyreek Hill is, we also have to look at him and be like, no. Because you got to think about, did Usain Bolt really talk? I mean, he did talk shit, but I don't remember none of his quotes. You know what I'm saying? Justin Gatlin, I don't remember none of his quotes, right? And shit, okay, who else do we got? I don't remember none of these track guys' quotes, but Noah Lyles is putting himself at the forefront and taking on the bullets. He's taking on the hits. He's taking on the criticism. He been talking shit. So now, when he doesn't win the 200 meter, when he doesn't get gold, now they talking shit. But bro, he still got bronze. He still got third place, and he still got a gold for the 100 meters. So at the end of the day, he still can talk shit. People just trying to downplay him because he did talk shit. And he's a 6-time medalist. So I feel like he deserves to be able to. So, that's just my take. That's just my thoughts. And that's just my articulation. That's just my detail. It's your brother, your cousin, your uncle, your nephew, your son, but I can't. Your uncle, your nephew, your friend, but I can't be your son. It's your kinfolk, William Jewell, L. Giving you my detail as I articulate. This is articulating. Rap, rap, rap.